Welcome to another episode of Ghost Stories Unleashed. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight, we'll journey to a small, seemingly quaint town called Eldridge. But don't let its serene facade fool you. Beneath the placid surface of this idyllic setting hides a chilling truth. Every town has its secrets, but for Eldridge, those secrets are woven into the very fabric of its community, cloaked in whispers and shadows, whispers that emanate from a place once innocent and lively, Willow Lake. Years might change a place, yet the echoes of a troubled past grip this town as tightly as the fog clings to the surface of the lake on a cold morning. It's here, at this eerie junction of beauty and mystery, that we meet Lily. Lily Thomas never imagined herself as a seeker of darkness. She was an artist, someone who brought brightness into the world through the vibrant strokes of her brush. Her world was one of vivid hues and bold expressions, her canvas a refuge from the unsettling murmurs that sometimes wafted through town. But like a moth drawn to a fatal flame, destiny had mapped a different path for her. It all began with the disappearance of her friend, who vanished one moonless night near the lake, leaving only unanswered questions behind. It was said that the lake possessed an ancient power, a malevolence that slumbered beneath its waters, and that, once disturbed, it would reach into the minds of the weak, the curious, and the unsuspecting. Lily couldn't stand idly by as fear tightened its grip on Eldridge. Yet as she peeled away the layers of time-honored myths, she became ensnared in a web of chilling revelations. Her journey would pit her against forces beyond the natural realm, pressing her courage and sanity to their limits. Tonight, lean in close and listen to the haunting tale of the Whispers of Willow Lake, where truth is as elusive as the wind, and once it grips you, it might never let go. Join me, if you dare, as we uncover what truly lies beneath the surface of tranquil waters in this ghost story that promises to challenge more than just your bravery, but your very perception of reality itself. So grab your headphones, dim the lights, and prepare yourself, because once the whispers start, they might just pull you under too. Stay with us till the end for insights and a discussion on the harrowing events that unfolded next to Willow Lake. Let's begin. The road to Eldridge unfolded like a forgotten dream, stretching through fields rimmed with the glimmer of early frost. As the headlights of Lily's car cut through the fabric of the night, she couldn't help but recall the stories her grandmother used to tell. Tales of strange occurrences and eerie lights dancing on the waters of Willow Lake, a place where time stands still, her grandmother would say. Her voice turned thick and secretive, as though merely speaking the words could summon shadows of the past. Returning to Eldridge wasn't so much a choice as it was an escape. Her soul was weary, her nights plagued by memories of the incident that had shattered her peace like a fine crystal goblet thrown against a stone wall. Here, she hoped to find something close to peace, or, at the very least, respite. Despite the late hour, the town square was alight with the warm glow of street lamps, resembling nothing so much as candles flickering beneath a solemn, starless sky. The season brought with it a festive cheer, yet the air tinged heavy, and the quiet whispers of the past seemed palpable. She could almost feel the town breathe, a deep, hushed breath, waiting, watching. Driving past familiar landmarks now weathered by time, Fitzgerald's Diner still boasting its vintage signage and the general store's worn facade, she felt a peculiar blend of nostalgia and melancholy. There was comfort in the familiarity, even if the landscape bore invisible scars from the intervening years. Her heart gave a stuttering lurch as she passed the road sign that read Willow Lake, an unexpected pang piercing her chest. Memories flickered behind her eyes, laughter echoing through wooded paths leading to the water, a carefree girl chasing sunbeams across grassy meadows. "Welcome home," she murmured to herself. No Miranda to hear. The words sounding both comforting and dreadful, hanging in the solitude of her car. Lily's cottage stood at the edge of town, its silhouette etched against the night like a guardian standing lengthy and resolute. The keys jingled in her hand, their cold metallic jangle oddly comforting. The door creaked in the way that she remembered, the interior a time capsule of shared meals and absorbed conversations. Sleep didn't come easily. The house was silent, yet the quiet was traitorous, writhing with expectation, as if the walls held their breath. Morning arrived with a soft, gray light seeping through the curtains, rousing Lily from restless dreams. Her mind lingered on remnants of fragmented faces and half-heard voices. She made her way to the town's cafe, the Morning Brew, a habitual gathering place for locals. As soon as she entered, a bell chimed above the door, announcing her arrival with an intimacy that only small towns seem to possess. Her eyes met familiar ones, widening in a mix of surprise and recollection. Emma Turner waved her over, a motherly presence in tweed and woolen scarves. "Lily, Blackwood. I'd heard whisperings about your return, but seeing is believing." Lily couldn't help but smile. "Emma, it's good to see you." She settled into the seat opposite, the warm aroma of freshly ground coffee enveloping her like an embrace. After all these years, Emma mused, her gaze both kind and curious. "I'm sure Eldridge feels different. Looked in on the changes, though the heart of it," Lily replied, licking her lips, "still beats the same." Emma laughed softly, a sound echoing genuine warmth. "Yes, well, except for all the young folk who keep trying to run away. Speaking of things unchanged, you do remember the date, don't you?" It took a moment, the layer of thoughts fraying in her mind. "Oh, right," she stated, scanning Emma's knowing look. "The Willow Lake anniversary." Poise turned to shadow in Emma's expression. The energy in the cafe subtly shifted. All this hullabaloo over ghost stories. But her tone was not dismissive, only concerned. "Do you remember what happened?" "I was just a child, but I remember the stories too," Lily said, more to herself than any conversation truly required. Emma leaned closer, confidence now a whisper. "They say the lake's surface breaks into faces on nights like these." A chill skittered down Lily's spine and her heart quickened in response. "Have you ever seen it?" Emma chuckled, the sound genuine but obscuring any deeper truth. "We hear what we wish to hear, and we see what we dare not speak of." The subject changed and conversation drifted into safer waters, herbs for colds, children, and grandchildren's endless antics. But beneath the pleasantries, a current of unease flowed unspoken. Upon leaving, Emma pulled her aside. "After all that's happened to you, be careful by the lake, Lily." Compelled by a force she couldn't name, Lily found herself drawn to Willow Lake as dusk bled into night. The ghost stories clung to her mind, whispering seductively from the periphery. Standing at the lake's edge, the water gleaming dully in the faltering light, she felt the pull of nostalgia, though tainted by the ominous tales that swam around her. It happened then, shadows stretching and shifting in ways that seemed almost deliberate. She heard it, a breath against the air, a voice she swore couldn't be real. "You came back," it seemed to say. The breath had gone cold in her chest, stomach constricting. Visibility was low. The night lay thick around her, stars obscured by heavy clouds. "Who's there?" she called, voice a tremor bearing the courage she'd summoned. No answer but the wind gently riffling the leaves across the water's surface. Yet now, reality seemed to pull at the edges, stretching her certainty to the surface like a skin. A trick of the light chased through the water, forming, then dissolving, leaving the lake placid once more. Blacks and silvers inky on the ruffled surface. No faces to materialize this time, only warping waves. You did see. You came back. Her heart pounded in her ears, each beat resonating like an echo in a closed cavern. I must be exhausted, she muttered, eyes scanning for sources, explanations, anything but the unnatural. What had she reinvented anew? The chill crept beneath her skin prickling with sensations summoned by memories she'd not wished to invoke tonight. Pulling her jacket tighter, she retreated to the safety of familiar streets. Once, the people of Eldridge might have weathered lives without stress, no history save their own invented lore. But as Lily continued her walk back into town, she couldn't ignore the weight in the air, much heavier than the rain threatening to fall. It seemed just the start. The first toe dipped beyond the bend of their understanding. As Lily searched for solace, she'd inadvertently ignited, by mere existence, those inklings whose tales tipped the balance between truth and legend. Her journey had just begun again, in this place where land met water at unsettling intervals, and the whispers beneath spilled threads yet unspoken. The deeper she delved into Eldridge's past, the clearer she realized. What had once been mere shadows in her memory now beckoned her along a trail shrouded in mist, darkness eager to meet her face to face. The sun hung low in the morning sky, casting the street in a golden hue as Lily made her way to the bookstore. She could feel the pulse of Eldridge all around her, the rhythmic life of the town remarkably unchanged even after all these years. The faint scent of freshly baked bread wafted from the bakery, nostalgic and comforting. The bookstore stood on the corner of Ash and Maple, a place she had frequented as a child, where wild adventures and mysteries lay between every cover. As she stepped inside, the familiar bell above the door chimed, and she was welcomed by the scent of old paper and ink. "Lily, is that you?" Clara's voice floated from behind a shelf, warm and inviting. "In the flesh," Lily replied with a grin, making her way through aisles of books stacked like friendly sentinels. Clara emerged, her trademark silver braid slightly askew, an evergreen apron around her waist. "It's been ages. Look at you. Time has been kinder to you than it has to me." Lily chuckled, the playfulness a balm for her frayed nerves. "You haven't changed a bit." "Well, everything else around here certainly has. Or maybe it just started showing its true colors," Clara said, her eyes dancing with a mix of mischief and wisdom. "Mark called, said he wanted to join the reunion." "Ah, I was hoping to see him," Lily said, glancing around. "Where are you hiding him?" Clara waved her hand dismissively. "You know him, always off chasing deadlines. But he'll be here soon." Meanwhile, she gestured towards a table laden with books. "I've pulled out a few local histories in case you wanted to brush up on Eldridge's darker past." Lily approached the table, running her fingers over the spines, titles jumping out at her. "Ghosts of Eldridge," "Willow Lake Mysteries," and one simply named Cursed Waters. Just as she was about to settle in, the bell jingled again, and Mark strode in, the young audacity of bygone days now tempered with a seriousness that didn't sit too comfortably on his features. "Lily." He moved towards her with a wide grin and pulled her into a quick hug. "Heard you couldn't stay away from our charming little town." "Missed the mysteries more than I care to admit," she replied, a levity in her voice. "Didn't expect to walk right into another one." Yes, the lake," Mark said, nodding knowingly. "Everyone's talking about it again. You'd think unfounded fears would have dissipated, but here we are." Lily frowned. "Unfounded? I thought there were records?" Mark exchanged a glance with Clara, more like folklore wrapped in some truth. "We're trying to make sense of it all. Funny how much clings to a place, you know?" Clara settled into a chair. "Every night we hear strange things," she said, her voice now a murmur. "Sounds best left to the imagination, if you ask me." "Unsettling dreams, too," Lily admitted, taking a seat between them. "Last night by the lake, I thought I heard voices, whispers." "The mind does funny things," Mark offered, leaning back. "Though in Eldridge, they say the line between thought and reality blurs, like those stories of the children." "Children?" Lily repeated, interested. Clara nodded, her face tight. "They say that years ago, children went missing around that lake. No bodies found, no sign of struggle, just vanished. That's why they call it cursed." "More fodder for the superstitious," Mark added, but there was a tension, a conflict perhaps, as he spoke. "And yet these tales haven't all been laid to rest." "Sounds like fuel for your papers," Lily teased, trying to lighten the mood even as the weight of the lake's mystery pressed against her. "Investigative goals renewed?" "Well, that's why I'm here," Mark confessed with a sheepish grin. "Thought you might join the effort." "You always were a seeker of truth," Lily mused, memory casting up long afternoons of conspiratorial whispers and maps spread on tables. Clara leaned forward, eyes glinting with her legendary enthusiasm. "There's more than just tales to be found, my friends. Somewhere, there are records that Elias, my grandfather, once kept. If anyone knew the real stories, it was him." Mark's brows furrowed in concentration. "The archives at City Hall and what's left of personal collections. They might unlock these." Lily absorbed their words, her curiosity igniting beyond disbelief. "I've got time. Besides, it'd be good to know what we're up against when these whispers start up again." The evening was heavy with moisture, foretold storms still resting lazily. As they departed the bookstore, Clara insisted they meet again soon. "Stories are living things, Lily," she said, before the door shut with its comforting, dusty chime. "Remember that as you dig." That night, downtown Eldridge seemed alight with unnatural luminescence, a remnant of street lamps wrapped with festooned brilliance. But it never touched the hem of shadow festering along Willow Lake. Lily stood at her window, bathed in contemplation, as the darkness deepened outside her small cottage. Visions danced there, among the trees, illusions conjured by the mind's longing remembrance, or perhaps memory made manifest. She remembered the voices that in truth seemed to speak from those depths. "You found us, didn't it say?" She closed her eyes. Her presence, this return to Eldridge, something primal within her tickled at fate's caprice, told her an understanding it desired written anew. But one night's echoes could never drown truth's call unsatisfied. There was more to seek. There were worlds within stories needing light that only belief illuminated from minds unsullied by tangible limitations. Eldridge held its breath as Lily exhaled hers deeply, contemplating the lake mysteries as not legend told, but reality spent long swallowing answers it intended to one day spew forth. That night, as sleep crept in on clever paws, she braced herself to embrace dreams unfamiliar. If the whispers returned, this time she was ready to listen. She'd bear herself into night's descent, his hand waiting strong, guiding her into the new world courageous. For as stories expounded among tomorrows yet birthed, very fabric of reality would ravel by dawn's edge, slowly to reveal what literally skulked on the lake's other shore. Night draped its deep, inky cloak over Eldridge as Lily found herself irresistibly pulled towards Willow Lake. A yearning, almost like a siren's call, tugged at her insides, whispering secrets she couldn't quite grasp. She'd been dreaming of the lake almost every night. In her dreams, the water's surface shimmered with unnatural colors, faces forming then dissolving into the ripples. This was not the peaceful lake of her childhood, but something far more profound and ancient, a labyrinth of secrets writ in water and light. It was her third evening back, and though she'd promised herself a reprieve, a curious resolve wrapped itself around her thoughts. As dusk surrendered to darkness, she ventured towards the path leading to that bewitched shore. The air was cooler near the lake, a breeze threading through the trees, whispering like old folding pages. Even before she reached the trail's end, she could feel it, the undeniable luminescence of Willow Lake, mist forming a gossamer veil over its expanse. A woman stood at the edge of the water, her silhouette ethereal in moonlight. Lily hesitated, heart fluttering at the unanticipated presence. She recognized the figure from town, a woman with hair like spun silver and eyes like a stormy sky. She was Maeve, the woman talked about in hushed tones, the one surrounded by tales of witchcraft and mystery, a frequent subject of town whispers. "Lily," Maeve called out, her voice carrying a melody that was both foreign and familiar. "Come closer, child. You've been expected." Lily moved cautiously down the incline, her curiosity entwined with a tendril of fear. "How is it you know my name when we've never met?" Maeve's laugh was a low, rippling sound. "Names are merely echoes in this world, but it's your yearning I recognize. The lake calls, does it not?" Standing at her side, Lily found Maeve's gaze steady, as though searching beneath her skin to the nature within. "You feel it too," Lily said, wondering at the clarity that suddenly surged. "Every whisper of this place is woven with age-old ties," Maeve replied, eyes returning to the tranquil water. "The lake speaks to those it chooses. Many listen, but few truly hear. You lived here once. Perhaps you can unearth the silent stories that weave the town's fate." "Stories?" Lily echoed, an image of lost children floating in her mind like phantoms. Maeve nodded. "Stories hold great power. They root themselves deep, resistant to time. The lake remembers what others forget, offering visions to those who dare illuminate past shadows." As the breeze lifted the hem of her jacket, Lily shivered. "But to what end? What does the lake want?" "It's said," Maeve began, her voice hushed, though no one else was near, "that the lake was cursed by a woman wronged, her pain etched into the waters. But you must be cautious," she added, placing a hand lightly on Lily's arm. "Once entangled, it can distort what you believe is real." "Why me?" Lily asked, breath-catching. Maeve's gaze bore into her with a warmth that extinguished fear. "Because much like the lake, you possess uncommon awareness, a sensitivity beyond normal comprehension." Her tone carried the assurance of undeniable truth. A light gust rustled between them, the sound distinctly carrying Lily's name before scattering into night's embrace, as though the lake itself sighed in acknowledgement. Later that evening, back in her cottage, Lily sat by her window once more, absorbing the night as though it too spoke of secrets. The encounter with Maeve lingered, spinning tales newly interwoven into her soul. Sleep approached reluctantly, but eventually, the allure of dreams unfurled its wings, compelling her once again into that space between waking and slumber. Her dreams picked up from where the night had left them, a tapestry of water painted by the moon, whisperings uncoiling gently in her subconscious. She stood at the lake again, the world painted vivid and strange. Her reflection rippled back, but it wavered bizarrely, a shadow beneath full of motion. And there, beyond reflection, small hands reached, 60 fingers splaying across as if to reach from beneath an undiscovered veil. Children's voices chorused through dreams, echoing songs she barely recalled, warning and welcoming with undertones unsettlingly real. Her presence seemed to catalyze unspoken anticipation. When morning crept through the windows with depleted sunlight, its dew-laden touch lighting threads of what did not dissolve. She arose with thoughts unable to reconcile dream from testimony. The morning's murmur drifted closer. Cloak pulled tight as Lily engaged with town murmurs, the symphony seamlessly playing over snippets, recovered from sleep's intermission. The lake's call had become unavoidable, an area open to her ears alone. Though it unnerved, drawing upon reserves unprepared, she felt anew the pursuit. In Maeve's vague disclosure was a truth woven unbreakable. To the lake she'd return, heartsick for closure not born but cultivated, and so planted, the germinate essence deepened within, promising discoveries beyond Whispers' sharp grace. This was a chapter now laid open, its path winding like the lake's own circuitous shore. If the lake loomed near among her unearthed quest, so too was she braced against certainty unspoken, a bowstring tension tightening so sweetly it refused to fade. For beneath language lay Master's own insipid intent, knowledge only those connected through blood and bond could truly hope to harness and yield. The call persisted strong, and unwavering echoed within her, the summons to another night, to depths yet unexplored. And Lily felt prepared to wade through shadows, resolve like stone, into stories past, to a horizon unexplored, barely perceptible beyond the reach of the lake's whispered tide. The midday sun hung high, casting long shadows that stretched lazily across Eldridge's cobbled streets as Lily made her way to Clara's bookstore. Inside, the air was cool and smelled sharply of air-dried pages and freshly brewed coffee, a combination that comforted and energized her. Mark and Clara were already seated at the large oak table laid out with an assortment of books, maps, and what appeared to be hand-scrawled notes. Their expressions were focused, the weight of research evident in the way they pored over the documents. "Lily," Mark said as he looked up, "we've found something." The eagerness in his eyes was infectious. Lily settled into a chair, her own curiosity piquing further. "What is it?" Clara pushed a tattered book across to her, its bindings frayed and pages bearing the yellowed tint of age. "It's an old journal, written by a man named Thomas Hale," she explained, "one of Eldridge's early settlers." Mark leaned in. Thomas wrote about Willow Lake in a way no other records have ever revealed. Rituals and otherworldly experiences he claimed were tied to the lake. Lily's fingers skimmed the pages, each one crowded with elegant script. Her attention snagged on a particular passage where the handwriting grew erratic. The lake speaks in chorus, shadows twisting under moon's watch, a pact made in desperation by woman forlorn, exchange trust for eternity. "A pact," Lily murmured. "Something must have gone horribly wrong," Clara nodded. Thomas's later entries speak of events escalating, things he struggled to explain but feared immensely. He refers multiple times to the woman of the wood who was cast aside, accused of witch work. Maeve, Mark supplied, the name sounding inevitable on his lips. But could Maeve be connected to events so far past? Lily questioned, suspicion and intrigue wrestling beneath her skin. Mark scratched his head, leaning back. It's possible she's a descendant, or perhaps the story is bigger than her. Either way, there's history she seems tied into somehow. It adds up considering how she knew you'd return. "There's more," Clara added with an edge to her voice. Further along, Thomas mentioned something hidden, a place beneath the lake's gaze, an underground cavern, but he called it a crypt of whispers. Lily's skin prickled. Her dreams returned vividly, reclaiming their echoes in her mind afresh. The trio decided almost wordlessly to seek out this submerged place that Thomas had described. The path to discovery lay undisclosed, but not unreachable. With notes in hand and anticipation simmering, they set off towards the lake, where stories of old echoed as naturally as breath. As they reached Willow Lake, the air thickened with possibility, every breeze tangled with sentiment of eerie invitation. Stepping carefully along the shoreline, they scanned the terrain in silence, hopes lending clarity to their search. It was Clara who noticed it, a subtle indentation disguised amidst roots and rocks, a passage leading down beneath the ground, partially obscured by time's embrace and nature's persistent claim. Mark peered into darkness. "What do you think?" "I think," Lily replied, steeling her nerves, "that we found our way in." Armed with flashlights and brave of heart, they descended into the mouth of shadows, the echo of their breath melding with air untouched for decades. The cavernous expanse they stepped into was vast and surprising, a hidden realm stretching under Willow Lake's dominion, a place where secrets lay fossilized among stone and soil. Their lights swept over the scene with electric relevance, revealing evidence of practices relegated to whispers and hushed conjecture. Symbols were etched into the walls, symbols familiar and arcane, woven into stories and teachings, unusual to the layperson. "This is ancient," Clara whispered, her voice reverberating through the void. Mark ventured further, toes kicking up clouds of ancestral dust. An altar lay at the cavern's heart, scattered with remnants, withered offerings long bereft of spirit, skeletal remains of prophecies and petals. "Seems like the place Thomas wrote about," he murmured, shining his light intensely until stopped by canvas of shadows. Lily's focus honed on the altar. Her mind, sometimes quicksilver, pivoted, drew connections from chain to chain, arranging the parts undone from misinformation into something whole. She reached for an object, an amulet, entwined in cobwebs of time. A series of soft thuds created tiny ripples in her mind, echoes of misunderstood devotion. "Here," she said, voice gathering clarity, "is the source of so much turmoil, provides shape to form the need for understanding." The shadows around pulsed as if recognizing such realization, and that moment stretched, woven from threads time unraveled individually. "Do you think it's—" Clara couldn't finish, her thoughts nebulous. "A symbol of the pact," Lily answered, conscious of earlier clarity. "It hints at invoking not just rituals, but consequences." The cavern encompassed a narrative long left unspoken, with each turn revealed more searing truth rather than made easier by its expurgation. As they prepared to leave, voices ridden with collective purpose, shadows whispered back, casting veils of past beyond human recrimination. Suddenly, clarity came unbarred, ideas long shackled came alive in laughter and lament. As they emerged into night's crisp union, minds broadened with revelations long banished, the understanding collectively shared reassured them against that which awaited. Some way, they were closer than before, yet infinitely apart, a tremor of anticipation bridging finality not yet grasped. The history now formed a path between now and known, a warning, a message never before heard, but deeply embedded in Eldridge's origins. Beneath the laughter of water and Moon's watchful presence, thought melded to rest, and with it, a future rebuilt amid paths untrodden, once forgiven. Between memory and fresh determination under delicate skies, Lily, Mark, and Clara knew their quest had merely been prologue to a theater, yet darkened with stories rehearsed among those ethereal toils spoken and spread. Now the lake spoke through them, bridging heartbeats together into whispered chords, humming eternal to their journey complete in its own resplendent rightness, as shadows revealed purpose beyond every yesterday endured. The night settled over Eldridge with an unnatural stillness, the air thick like anticipation before a storm. The town seemed to hold its breath, the shadows more tangible in the dim glow of the scattered lamps. This was no ordinary night. Tonight marked the anniversary of the first disappearance. Lily felt the weight of it pressing against her, a suffocating reminder of the unresolved, echoing tales older than memory. She stood at her cottage window, staring out at the silhouette of the far-off trees encircling Willow Lake, knowing the time had come for answers. Clara and Mark had stood firm, their companionship a lifeline amidst the tumultuous seas of discovery they had navigated together. Yet tonight, it was Maeve who held the key to unlocking the final mystery. Lily found Maeve in the clearing by the lake, her aura intermingling with the mist that wreathed her limbs like a silvery cloak. Here, reality seemed to exist in fluid state, bending in ever so slight whispers to the lake's fervent gaze. "You returned," Maeve said without turning, her voice a soft breeze that rustled through the reeds. "Too many questions linger unanswered," Lily replied, stepping closer. "We found the cavern, the ritual remnants. I need to know, what was your role in all of this?" Maeve's sigh was laden with timeless sorrow. "The wrongs perpetuate, but I did not author them. Only an inheritor, like yourself." Lily frowned, her heartbeat a staccato drumming in her ears. "What do you mean?" "Like myself." Maeve turned to face her, the moon lighting edges of her face with a ghostly luster. The bloodlines of those first accused run deep within Eldridge. The pact formed out of desperation for protection, but promises unfulfilled result in curses difficult to lift. Lily's mind spun, her childhood narratives intertwining with newfound insights. "You speak as if it's personal. Are you saying it's family?" Maeve nodded gravely. "Your lineage, Lily. Our lineage. It traces back to those times. Our ancestors were both protectors and betrayed." She paused, allowing the words to settle into the woven tapestry of their conversation. "The whispers crave attention from us because we are their kin." Her lineage, a thought she didn't naturally welcome amidst the chaos of this revelation. Yet within her, a deep current, an inherited tether, resonated with logic's bitter sting. "But what does it want from me? From us?" Maeve's eyes held mystery and the depth of 1,000 untold tales. "Your acknowledgement, your acceptance. Only we can rewrite what was once broken. Failure to confront it binds us further, to vengeance enacted generations ago." Concentration turned to commotion in Lily's mind as lost children's echoes surfaced in unison, asking resolution. Somewhere, a tremor, an impulse perhaps, signaled the entity nearby. Just then, the woods rustled with the arrivals of Mark and Clara, their presence brimming with urgency. "Lily?" Clara called, glancing between her and Maeve. "Listen, the voices, they've never been louder." Mark caught his breath. "The lake, the water, something's happening." Maeve nodded, her expression both resolute and resigned. "The past demands its due. We stand upon the threshold of choices left by those who faltered." From the lake, a low hum began to rise, a cadence like a hymn just beyond understanding, pulsing with life and stories beyond imagination's yield. "We must resolve this," Maeve stated, stepping closer to its edge, lest time's cruelty persists upon those undeserving. Together, they formed a ring, fingers linked in defiance and solidarity. A family of fate against wrongs concluded within threads woven of eldritch design. As the water rippled and distorted with the night sky's reflections, an apparition began to surface from beneath, composed of stars and shadows, a figure formed of mist and memory, embodiment of the whisper's sentience now bared before them. "It said," Maeve intoned, voice strong, "that only acknowledgement can quell rising tides of discontent." In unison, they met their spectral ancestors' gaze, a confrontation centuries overdue, and Maeve's words wove through shared history, seeking forgiveness where silence once lay. "It's forgiveness I seek," Maeve's voice rang, clear as an ancient bell, and a path restored for the sake of Eldridge and all its kin. Lily felt the entity waver, its anguish embodied by the shifting mists and turmoil within its nebulous form. The wind rose as if echoing an ages-old sigh. Clara stepped forward, extending her free hand into the cold air. "We understand," she said, the words falling like stones into the slab of water. Heartbeats synchronized, a thrumming pulse of resolve emanated from their united stand. Mark followed her lead, gentle concord gracing his features. "For Eldridge," he added, bowing his head. As though purified, the mist began to dissolve, the specter sliding back beneath the waterline with a slow gracefulness. An acceptance of amends offered. In those final moments, reality crystallized into something new. Memories coaxed from shadows settled into rest, awaiting a dawn uncontorted by discord. With the entity now at peace, the tranquility that swept over the lake felt palpable, unburdened at last by centuries-old sorrow. Mark exhaled, the tension in his frame releasing. "Did we?" "Yes," Maeve confirmed, a smile breaking through her weariness. "The pact made anew, reconciled by our shared bond and vow to remember." Lily felt the fading pull of the lake give way to warmth beneath her skin. She inhaled deeply, filled with the scent of rebirth and promise. A clean slate beginning, inviting what tomorrow held yet unscripted. As the throng began to disperse, observed the first shy light on the horizon, they knew that Eldridge's narrative had turned a page towards home, singing its tune through open palms and visible sky. In her heart, Lily bore witness crafted not of kin, but liberation. The story had sung its final recourse, rewriting the inheritance anew. When morning painted colors across Willow Lake, the veil between epochs began to lift, allowing Eldridge to breathe a newfound clarity of presence, an understanding arisen from the echoes of Twilight's revelations. Together, they returned to their paths, futures reclaimed from uncertainty's grip, their lineage and the whispers of the past reconciled upon Willow Lake's forever storied surface. Dawn crept over Eldridge, casting the town in soft hues of pink and gold, a mantle of newfound tranquility descending upon it. The murmurs of Willow Lake had quieted, replaced by a gentle rippling that spoke no more of age-old torments, but of a future untethered to past's shadow. Lily, standing at her cottage window, gazed out at the reflection of morning across the surface of the lake. Her heart ached with remnants of the night's inveiglement, the secrets revealed tethering her back to a history she was just beginning to understand. She had emerged from the confrontation with Maeve changed, her perspective on who she was and where she belonged reframed by truths cast by the whisper's cadence. And although those revelations held a bittersweet tang, she acknowledged their depth within her. Later, as the town began to stir to life, the echoes of a history freed from uncertainty braided themselves into every corner of conversation. At the heart of Eldridge was a gathering, unplanned yet diligent in its own continuity, a coming together of those eager to sow the past into testimony. Mark leaned against the entrance of the general store, taking in the morning bustle. Lily approached, drawn to their familiar companionship, and he welcomed her with a nod, affection dancing in his eyes. "You look rested," Mark observed, gesturing at the brightness framing her eyes. "Last night, that was something." Lily offered a half smile, the weight of understanding heavy upon her features. "It was. But we did it, didn't we? It feels different now, peaceful." He looked out over the square. Do you think the townsfolk can let go of their fears now? We gave them the opportunity, she said softly, watching as two children chasing each other near a shop's display, just as children have always done. Clara joined them, an apron tied crisply around her waist. People will talk about this for years to come, she said, joining them in their survey of the town. Hopefully in gratitude, rather than fear. They know more now, Lily replied. Knowledge is a placid kind of power, a tool for understanding, if not prevention. Clara smiled knowingly. Knowledge or faith? Perhaps they entwine as one. Lily pondered these words, turning memories over in her mind. Deep-seated familial roots, lit gentle by revelation's stroke. And now it's time for us to lay the ghosts to rest, she resolved. As the day unfolded, Lily found that community extended its hand further towards her. Shopkeepers nodded, strangers offered smiles, all acknowledging the sea change brought forth by the night's revelations. The elders gathered beneath the ancient oak in the square, a symbol of Eldridge's rooted endurance, sipping tea from delicate porcelain, their stories now bound within the fullness of time, woven into the present with enough grace to honor memory. Lily, Mrs. Turner called, waving her over with a delicate hand. A fixture as much a part of Eldridge as its cobblestone paths, Mrs. Turner had seen generations grow and had spoken kindly of each in turn. Glad to see you, Mrs. Turner, Lily greeted warmly, taking a seat on the wooden bench. Glad to see us all, Mrs. Turner mused, a twinkle lighting her gaze. Eldridge, thanks you, dear child. It took courage to confront what lingered untamed. I simply followed what needed addressing, Lily demurred. But thank you. It means a lot. The older woman patted her hand. Reckoning doesn't discriminate with time or expectation. The lake's stories now gently rest within, neither prize nor burden. We owe you our lasting peace. Lily felt a soft flush of pride, joined by an unwavering sense of belonging. I hope we've done justice to those memories, Lily replied quietly, nodding to herself more than anyone. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky with farewells and dreams yet yearned for, Lily found herself drawn one last time to the lake, where the day embraced its conclusion in a delicate dance. Maeve stood, watching the play of light on the water's surface, a guardian to the world within, yet now free of burdens accumulated by time's harsher passage. Lily joined her, a quiet joy enduring between them as they shared the beauty of the present moment. A culmination bound intimately, as threads newly woven crossed the eons to tie a future shared amongst their acknowledgement. Eldridge will heal now, Maeve said, her voice relieved. Yes, Lily replied, her spirit light despite the echoes of revelation within her heart. Its people can move forward, unhindered by shadows never their own. Maeve smiled, a tender curve formed upon her lips. And what about you? Forward, Lily confirmed, a world awakening in her gaze matched only by freedom. I think it's time I find my place, unshackled from such uncertainty. She lifted her eyes toward the horizon, the promise of future endeavor lingering beyond the lake's reach. I've learned, she continued, that understanding doesn't fix tomorrow's worries, but it certainly offers a light to lead. Maeve laughed a gentle exhale of sound, as it should. The past rests easier, given rest from forgiveness offered than in anger sustained. A quiet warmth filled them, the shared comprehension a soothing balm to the conclusion they had helped to manifest. For Eldridge, the night of revelation proved a night of healing, the wisdom of spirits now nestled peacefully below the lake's tranquil surface. For Lily, it meant a departure from the shadows, a journey towards a horizon where her footsteps would carry further meaning, inspired by discovery, guided by faith in stories brought to light. Gone were the phantom children, and with them the whispers long feared. Instead, echoes of revitalized assurance housed Higgins's appreciation, and such was peace, carried by Eldridge into tomorrow, as the lake's surface bore gently sown denouements much deserved, infinite in nature, expended in courage. Lily clasped Maeve's hand in gratitude, a shared understanding without words. It was a silent testament to their conviction against memories obscura. Then, with kindness bared and history wrapped with continuance, Lily took measured steps away, each departure leading toward new purpose. Willow Lake chimed mystery's languid summer's morning's lullabies, enduring now less forebodingly. It was a new day settling across Eldridge, where stories passed down mingled as one cohesive present, no longer haunted but celebrated. Lily welcomed the promise beneath the stars' unwavering tender watch. As she bid adieu to her past and embraced her future, it stood freed, embracing somewhere unchained through illumination's song. As the dust of conflict settles into memory and Willow Lake regains its quiet majesty, Eldridge breathes a sigh of relief. The town, under new light, bears an air of tranquil reflection. The once shivering shadows now shadows of a different kind. Shadows not of fear, but respect for the tale etched into their community's bones. Lily stands at the edge of the lake one last time, the gentle waves lapping at forgotten worries, a silent guardian of secrets released. Behind her, the town moves forward. The stories she helped unearth, the fears she faced, now resonate in every corner like the soothing notes of an old lullaby. As she prepares to leave, the familiar landscape unfurls before her, each nook a piece of history woven through both pain and redemption. Eldridge, with its small roads and sprawling canopy of familiar skies, holds a warmth she will forever carry. Yet she knows her path now leads away from these whispering banks. You'll visit, won't you? Mark's voice drifts to her over the soft murmur of the lake. Of course, Lily replies, turning to face him, the certainty bounding forth in her voice. This will always be a part of me. Clara joins them, offering Lily a small, worn book, a keepsake with pages once leafed through by generations before her. For the road ahead, Clara says, and for remembering how far you've come. Lily accepts this gift, a smile finding its place. I've learned that stories have a way of sticking with you, and their whispers echo, Maeve adds, stepping forward. But remember, they are your whispers to command now. With a chorus of farewells and promises carried on the wind, Lily takes her leave, her heart lightened though the whispers remain, a part of her story now woven into the tapestry of her being. As she walks away from Eldridge, toward new horizons where fields stretch beneath skies, touched by discovery and dreams rekindled, the whispers of Willow Lake travel with her. Not as harbingers of what's past, but as gentle reminders of victory hard won, of a soul awakened to life's continuing song, the beginning anew, always renewed. And in that gentle whisper she finds her peace.